Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. Today is an awesome day because it's another day we get to talk about Grand Arena Championships. This is episode 2 of the current season, and I'm still stuck in Carbonite League. Hopefully we can get out of that, and it is the semifinals, which means that I won my most recent match. This is a round of 3, and whoever wins that moves on to have more points than other people. The winner of that doesn't really get anything other than a couple prizes, and the right to gloat if you want. My opponent had such a big guild name that I couldn't even fit my record onto this page without shrinking it unduly, so I'm just leaving it, and I hope you guys are okay with that. And if you're not, then I suggest that you recalibrate your expectations a little bit. My opponent's roster here is really solid. They have a little bit more GP than I do. They actually have fewer relics than me, which is interesting because it's the first time that's actually happened. Everyone has always out-reliced me in the past since relics have come out. This is only my 5th match, but in the previous 4, that's what happened. In this case, my opponent does have 3 more Zetas than me, and I actually have more gear. They have me destroyed in mods, though, like just completely wrecked. Like 20 more, 19 more, plus 20 speed mods or greater, which is huge. That's an enormous number of them. But it was our war to fight, so let's jump into it here.
Are you ready for a war?
Now on defense, my opponent did not have Darth Revan on defense once again, which seems like a departure from the kind of normal thing that I've been accustomed to in the previous Grand Arena Championships, but lately my opponents just have not been putting Darth Revan on defense, which I find to be a fantastic state of events because I don't necessarily like putting all my eggs in the basket of me being able to beat their Darth Revan team. There's a lot of RNG involved at times, and I would just really prefer not to have to worry about that. Now on the flip side, it does mean that they're going to get one easy win against my defenses because I don't have Darth Revan on my defense either. And I realize that it's kind of the cool thing for a lot of the Grand Arena streamers to want to put their Darth Revan on defense, but that's just not how I play, and I've had some pretty good success so far, so I'm just going to keep it going. Now, I had to figure out what kind of squads I wanted to beat first. The first zone I decided to take down was the one with Bossk in it, and I've had a lot of success using First Order against Bounty Hunter Bossk teams, and I decided that I would try it again. Now, maybe this was a little bit foolhardy because Bossk is like Relic 3, and he's really fast and really strong and everything. I decided to take First Order here, though, because they can do a lot of damage over time, and there's not much damage to be found on this Bounty Hunter team. Like, Boba can do a little bit of damage, but he was not super amazingly modded. Like, all of these characters, you have to realize, all of them have really strong mods. Like, when I say they're not strongly modded, they're not super strong, it just means that they're not like top end arena level mods. You know, they're still really solid though. And I guess I should say too that in some cases when I say they're not very good mods, I do mean exactly that. They are not good mods. But this opponent was a departure from that for sure. Now you'll note that Bossk is almost hardly hurt at all. Like he's not doing poorly at all. He's just a crazy brick wall, and I really need to get him up to gear 13, not only because his ship is good, but because look at how hard it is to shift him. He just has a ton of resilience. It is amazing, and I applaud my opponent for having such a fast but still really powerful Bossk. And so you can see, like, I'm doing all these things to be able to dispel him. I have 3 different ways to dispel against normal opponents, but he has the Bossk unique Zeta, which means that I can't really drop his taunt ever, almost. Like, I'll basically have to just kill him before I can do that. So I did manage to get tenacity down on him, however, and Now my goal is to just keep hitting him, and I really want to be able to sneak in an original Kylo, a basic attack, because if I can do that, then I can get I can prevent him from being able to heal. I have a debuff that prevents him from being able to heal, and just in time, because they started doing all their different healing through debuffs shenanigans, which bounty hunters are great at, and so being able to get that buff off right then was huge. I wasn't really at risk of timing out that much, especially because I had tenacity down on Bossk. It was only a matter of time to be able to get that healing immunity debuff on him, but it was still good because now we want to spend as much time as we can just trying to heal up my protection and getting the max banners as possible that we can possible. First Order is still a pretty hard counter for Bossk bounty hunters, even with really strong mods and even with Bossk being a crazy gear 13 monstrosity. And I'm actually pretty excited. I want to really start working on a bounty hunter squad at gear 13 at some point. I don't know how soon that's going to be, but Bossk is probably going to be pretty soon. So be on the lookout for that. I don't even know if you'll notice, but it'll be great. So 59 banners, that's acceptable for the level of uncertainty that we were facing. And now we just need to jump right into this General Grievous squad, because that was the other obvious matchup that I had. I wanted to make sure that I used Jedi Revan here. Jedi Revan, I've really been practicing with him a lot. And I almost put Darth Revan in there. That would have been an interesting match. I actually have no idea how that would have gone. Probably poorly for me, for multiple reasons, both short-term and long-term. But I'm using Bastila as the lead, as usual. Jedi Knight Revan is the real leader, if we're all being honest. But he's letting Bastila kind of get some experience in, as any good mentor will do. So here we have the Droidica version of General Grievous droids, and that does present more issues in terms of, like, you're going to be being dealt more damage over time. Like Nute is a little bit more insidious. Like his damage is going to be more in the background. You don't really notice it until it sneaks up and just like really hurts you a lot. But against Droidica, it's like he's gonna be doing a lot of damage, and that's just how things are going to be. You can kind of look forward to it, and he's eventually just going to like punch a hole through one of my Jedi. Like that's just what Droidica does. Luckily, I think he was the one that was gear 11, so this one doesn't pack as much of a punch as a lot of Droidicas I've faced do. But he's still something to pay attention to. And here we're just kind of trying to bide our time and not get any more kills until we have Jedi Revan's mark ability available. And once we have mark available, then he'll mark General Grievous and try to take him out. Now, just because we're trying not to kill anyone before Revan goes, doesn't mean that we're going to be successful. So Magna Guard is just being annoying. He's continually taunting, and in this case we just had no choice but to take him out. And then General Grievous went and killed everyone, or at least I think he killed Yoda, and then Jedi Revan brought him back with Savior, and now we can mark General Grievous, and now we can just take him out. He's got a lot of hit points, and B1 is going to be going as often as he can to be able to try to heal Grievous. So it's not necessarily simple, but what we're trying to do is pretty basic. I mean, hit Grievous until it goes down, and hopefully we can take him out before he gets another turn, because right now everyone's so softened up from all of his other AoEs that he's done, and all of B1's hits, and all of basically everyone's hits, that we can't really withstand another huge barrage or AoE from Grievous. So he was a good boy and went down, and then Droidica folded surprisingly quickly. So now we're just trying to get as many protection points back on us as possible. And really, I mean, if we can just finish now, it's going to be perfect. Like we just want to be able to take out B1 before he does another AoE and potentially digs into our protection, and getting the win with 58 banners is fine. Like, you always hope for 60, but 58 against General Grievous on any day, especially a pretty strong high relic one, is a great result. And so I was able to get through the first zone and see what's in the back here, and it's Carth with a Wampa and Qi'ra with Nest, and none of them are high gear levels or anything, so this is going to be a relatively simple zone to be able to take out. But first we need to worry about this other zone here, which has Ahsoka, Nightsisters, and Shaak Ti Clones, and all of those are geared relatively well. This next zone presented a little bit more of a challenge to be able to decide what teams to take. I could take Traya against these clones, and I would have a high degree of success, but I did decide to take my Commander Luke team instead with 3PO because of what a lopsided matchup this is. Now you can watch as I took out Shaak Ti first. That's always the first one you want to take out. I think in my more recent video I said something like you want to take out 5s first, and that made sense because I was talking about which clones to take out first. Like, I always want to take out Shaak Ti first. That's the very first priority. So one thing that's nice about taking out clones with Commander Luke and company is you get all these exposes with C-3PO. So after you kill 5s, Echo and Rex have a huge health pool, and you don't even care about it even a little bit because expose is a great tool to use against clones. Now you can see here I got a few undersized wins, or I got one undersized win here, and that means that I was able to get the achievement for undersized wins, and I wanted to go immediately and just take care of that, because if you get more undersized wins after you achieve the thing but you haven't like clicked that you've achieved it, then it won't restart and get you like start working on the next set of them. So I did get the feat, and now I'm able to, if I want to use an undersized squad, I'm able to start working on the next, on step 2 of that feat, which is an important thing because undersized wins can be quite challenging to get. Now I debated for a little bit whether I should just take Imperial troopers here against Nightsisters or what, and I decided that I would instead just take Padme. My Imperial troopers were really, really close. Like they are just a little bit faster than my opponent's really, really fast Asajj, but I don't have enough experience with them, and after a catastrophic failure with them in Territory Wars earlier today against a similarly modded team, I decided that right now in Grand Arena was not going to be the time that I should experiment using Imperial troopers. They're still a pretty new quantity for me, so hopefully you guys will get to see Imperial troopers in action against Nightsisters soon. I've been really working on them a lot to make that happen, but as it stands, I am using Padme. Padme is more than functional against this, and I knew that whatever my opponent had in the back, I would almost certainly be able to take it out with a combination of Darth Revan and Traya. And those were my 2 big teams remaining. I knew that that was probably going to be enough. And if it wasn't, then my opponent would have some serious problems trying to full clear my own board. So in the back, I had Geonosians to deal with, which were easy, and a Nute Separatist squad. Now, I took the chance I had attacked relatively early on, and I decided I would just kind of think about my different matchups and pairings for a little bit and see if my opponent would make some attacks, because if they made some attacks and kind of struggled early on, then I would be in a much better position to be able to experiment with squads and be able to do some things that I maybe wanted to a little bit later. And as it so happened, my opponent did start attacking, and so they took out a couple of my squads here first, and I'm just going to let the real play. I took screenshots of every attack that they did, and they did fail a couple attacks. We'll go over that in a little bit, but in the end, they had no problem in full clearing me, and the score, though, was not that high. Like, mid-1800s is not insurmountable, especially with the great start that we had. So here's kind of a breakdown of the teams that I had available and what I was going to be opposing. So there was the Nute Separatists, the Qi'ra Nest team, the Old Republic team with Wampa, and Geonosians. Now, I wanted to make sure that I got one-hit kills on all of these guys, which means that I needed to use Imperial troopers on something, Jedi Training Rey on something. I was just going to leave Phoenix and Ewoks out because maybe they could beat one of these teams, but they're more like desperation mode. I should probably put them on like a lower rung on this chart, honestly. So after I had taken like a 2-hour hike, and that whole time, well, maybe not the whole time, but I had planned it out and thought through all the different steps, and I decided that I thought that my Imperial troopers would maybe be able to beat Nute. I wanted to try that. And then if I didn't, I could probably clean that team up relatively easily with Phoenix and Ewoks, and I did have some leeway after my opponent had failed a couple attacks, so I decided to go with that. Nest, having Traya fight against Nest is a luxury that you don't often get, but I decided I would just do that to make sure I wouldn't time out against her. The Old Republic with Wampa would be easily dealt with by Jedi Training Rey, which meant Geonosians could be completely manhandled by Darth Revan again. And with that, we were off, so I decided to take the most uncertain matchup first, and even though I thought about it a lot and tried to figure out what characters and interactions I wanted to have, I still wasn't certain. Like, it's one thing to play through something in your brain and a totally different thing to actually do it. So Walt went first, put his never-ending buff on Stormtrooper Han, and so now we're just trying to kill Stormtrooper Han right off the bat. Like, if we can just take him out, there's no revive available for him. Like, Wat can revive any of the other Separatists, but not Han. And now we took out Wat next because he was relatively easy to take out. Dooku was the major hitch in my plans. I was worried because he can do his stun thing. You can see he's already stunned 3 different characters at different times. Now I have 3 different troopers stunned at the exact same time. I think Veers is the only one who's been left out, but I did have Deathmark on him, and he eventually went down pretty hard. He was harder to kill than I thought. Now, there was an interesting interaction here where Jango can't die because he's immune to damage for his first 2 turns after he gets his contract, and he starts with his contract up. And so we're just hitting him because he's visible, and Nute is stealthed, and now Nute is out and about, so we can take him out too. But this actually afforded me a kind of a luxury period a little bit to be able to just get some buffs up and regrow my protection that had kind of been taken down over time, and I did end up being able to cycle through all my different cooldowns and got Deathmark on him, so when he finally did come out of his stupor and was actually vulnerable, we were able to just take him out right away, and he didn't even have any revives because Deathmark denies revives now. So I'm actually probably going to be sharing that one a little bit more widely. Wat is a pretty good defensive character, but there are apparently some pretty easy counters using Imperial troopers on them, so I don't really know. I'm guessing that Wat is going to go on offense for me eventually. My next most uncertain match here was the Carth Wampa team. I wasn't that uncertain about it. Like, I've done this match before, and Jedi Training Rey is the best in the business at being able to control the situation. Like, she's just got so many great tools for that. But Wampa always presents a risk. Like, he can just do so much damage real fast, and he can be really resilient if he can get his big AoE off, depending on which Zetas he has. He can also prevent healing on characters, so I just wanted to be sure here. So, if I could go through here, and even if I lost with Jedi Training Rey, which I didn't expect, but even if I did, I could at least, finish this squad off potentially with Ewoks or Phoenix. So the goal there was to just take out, you want to take out Carth because he was only gear 11 in this case, so he's just really easy. Like, he was just a prime candidate to be able to just take out. And then you want to take out Wampa, and Wampa can kind of run the board against Ewoks and against Phoenix, depending on RNG. So my goal here was just to take those 2 guys out first, just in case I failed somehow. And once those two are out, I mean, then the possibility of me failing became pretty tiny. You know, I'd have to have like a crash or something catastrophic, which isn't out of the question, of course, but you can't play assuming that. And so now I'm just trying to play to take these two out, but before I take them out, I really want to be able to regrow my protection. And Zalbar's pretty good at just like hanging around and taking a long time to die. I actually think I kind of made a mistake here by switching to Juhani. She has a bigger health pool, but if I was to keep hitting Zalbar, I think it would have been wiser, because Zalbar has an enormous protection pool right now, or defense pool right now. Like every time you hit him, he gains in protection or defense. I mean, which obviously didn't matter. 58 banners. I would maybe have been mad about that, except I knew that if I could get one-shot kills on all of my opponent's squads, then I would get the win. And so 58 is close enough. Like in the long term, you're not going to miss it. Any of those banners, you know, for your like lifetime score. It's not going to hold you out of Kyber, most likely. And so I just decided to be fine with it, because the other alternative was to not be fine with it and still have the score anyways. So I just went with it. Now, going into this match, I knew I was going to win. Traya is just always going to take out a Qi'ra nest team unless the gear differential is just obscene. There's just not much that Qi'ra has to offer against Traya. Maybe if they took like Han and Chewie and departed from like kind of the standard smuggler scoundrel thing, maybe then they would have a chance. But as it stands, I mean, really what you're looking for here with Traya, it's not to win. You're going to win. You want to get as many banners as possible, and unfortunately that's not really that easily achieved either. One thing I could have done here, I guess, is taken Thrawn instead of Sith Trooper. I wanted to get the undersized win, so I don't think that was a bad choice. But I could have taken Thrawn. He has a little bit of that protection regen. He has a little bit more control, so he can tie someone up so they're not hitting your guys. But in the end, Sith Trooper is also a good choice. I do think that Thrawn would have been a better choice here, especially because he was available. I wasn't going to use him against Geonosians with Revan or anything, so I maybe should have done that, but it's also not a bad thing to take Trooper, honestly. You know, that's pretty minutia-based criticism, but it is something I can look at doing in the future. So, as you can see, I got the Isolate on L3 first. She's the only taunting tank. After that, I had easy access to Nest, who I just annihilated right away, and was able to take them out. And then here's Bronzium. Have you guys ever been in a position in life where you think you're feeling like you're doing a good job, and then life reminds you that, hey, you're still in Bronzium? That's kind of how it felt there. So that zone is cleared. Everything's cleared. All I have left is Darth Revan against Geonosians, and I had this one flash of like, not really panic, but like, if I fail against Geonosians, not that I would fail with Revan, like I almost think that no matter what combination of buttons you push, you can't fail against Geonosians here. But like if I crashed, I don't think I'd have a way to be able to beat the Geonosians here. So maybe it would have been wise to do this one first, but whatever. It adds a little bit of more risk and excitement to the match, right? So we've got the lightning. You always want to do lightning first, and then you can get rid of the brutes taunt. And I mean, it's just such an easy match. Like you do your AoEs and your lightning. The lightning actually didn't land on the guy that I chose to electrify with Bastila, which was a mistake, an oversight on my part, but easily rectified. 61 easy peasy banners, and I ended up with a pretty decent score. My goal is to always get over 1910, which doesn't always happen, but when I can, I love being able to do that. So I was really happy that I was able to do that this time.
Until a
At last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside.
Now let's take a little look at my defenses. So my bottom front defenses here took both one shot. I assume that was Traya taking out my Geonosians, though who knows. I was able to get a defense with Emperor Palpatine and my Nute Watt team, which is exciting. The Palpatine, I don't really understand what happened here, but I am excited because I have a Relic 4 nest there. Maybe it's 5. I don't remember at what point I got it up to 5, but that squad is solid now. My opponent, pretty clearly, I think they used both of their Revans on the back zone there with Grievous and Asajj, and then they one-shot my clone zone, which is fine as well, obviously. Here's something I wanted to start doing a little bit here and there. And what I wanted to do was just look at what if my opponent just hadn't failed their attacks. Like, clearly they had the teams to be able to beat me without trying to two-shot me, and if they hadn't failed their attacks, like what would our scores have been, and how many banners would we have dropped if they hadn't failed any of their attacks. And so you can see here that I was still able to win in that category. I had 8 failed or dropped banners. My opponent had 29, so I was more efficient. Now that's not a knock on my opponent. I know that sloppiness is definitely used in the pejorative in most cases, but in this case I just wanted a non-technical term to be able to use for that chart, and that seemed to fit because it's probably going to be describing me more often than my opponents anyways in terms of sloppiness. So it's just fun to look at numbers sometimes and just see what things you're doing well and what things you could be doing better. And so anyways, guys, stay tuned for the finals. Hopefully it'll be a non-event and I will just win easily, but if that doesn't occur, I'm looking forward to another episode with you guys. I'm looking forward to it regardless, okay? But it'll be more exciting, at least. It'll be sensational. So until then, guys, thank you so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.